Hi. So my name's Kathy Resmer. I'm one of the associate publishers at 7 Days, one of the organizers of the Tech Jam. I just wanted to say thanks for coming to the Vermont Tech Jam, our 7th annual event. And I wanted to just thank a few of our sponsors while I had this opportunity. This is the last presentation of the Tech Jam. It's been going on, as you know, for the last couple days. 7 Days organizes it with the Vermont Technology Alliance. We would not be able to do it without Dealer.com, MyWebGrocer, C2, Biotech Instruments, Champlain College, Fairpoint Communications, Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, Logic Supply, Merchants Bank, the Vermont Technology Council, the State of Vermont, and the City of Burlington. I hope you guys got a chance to stop by some of their booths and talk to them and thank them for supporting the event. The City of Burlington was a sponsor this year, as you know, and it was really exciting to see the announcement about BTV Ignite. This panel is connected to that. I think that Bradley and his presenters are going to showcase some of the kinds of apps that BTV Ignite is hoping to spur people to create in Burlington. So we're really excited to hear from all of you presenters today, and excited to have Bradley here with us. Bradley, who is a finalist for our Vermont Tech Jam Innovation or Ambassador Award, for all of your good work, and thank you for everything that you have done for the tech community in Vermont.
Thanks.
So take it over, Bradley.
So thanks everyone for coming. We've got a great crowd here, it looks like. So we're going to be seeing a bunch of really great demos of some Civic apps. But before we see those demos, I want to talk to you a little bit about what is Civic hacking, just in case some of you aren't familiar with what we're talking about when we say Civic hacking. So basically the idea of Civic hacking is people working together collaboratively to improve communities using technology. That's the basic definition of it. So it's a movement that you'll find happening across the country, cities all over the country, even internationally. One of the organizations that's working at the national level on this is an organization called Code for America. Anybody here heard of Code for America? Ooh, awesome. So Code for America is basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to improve citizenship, trying to improve government through improving citizenship. So it's this idea of civic engagement in the digital age. So they've got Code for America has a bunch of programs. They've got a fellowship program where people go embed for a year within a city government. So we've also got a accelerator program, so if you're working on a civic startup, you can apply for a $25,000 grant. There's also a brigade. So we actually, Code for America Brigade Captain with Code for BTV, which is a brigade here in Burlington, Vermont. And we've got a bunch of brigade folks here who are going to be showing you some demos. And peer network. So if anybody here work in city government or government at all, any form of government, if you do, you can join the peer network. And Code for All, this is a new thing they just launched where they're expanding Code for America outside of America. So Ireland, Japan, Germany, a bunch of other places. So I'm not going to talk a lot about these different apps. I'm just going to skim through this just in the interest of time because you're going to see a bunch of really cool apps later. So I really encourage folks to get involved in Code for America. You can apply to become a Code for America Fellow. They actually just closed the fellowships for this year. But next year, there'll be a new window for that. There was somebody I was just coming back from the Code for America Summit this past week, and they had someone was giving a presentation about applications, and there were only 2 people from Vermont who applied for this last fellowship. So next year, I want to see dozens of people from Vermont applying for fellowships, so hopefully, well, now you do. So next year, apply. If you work in government, you can connect with the peer network. You can apply for a startup accelerator to get funding for your startup, or connect with a brigade. So we've got a brigade right here in Burlington, Code for BTV. So we actually launched Code for BTV with the National Day of Civic Hacking back in June. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop, deploy, maintain civic apps for the greater Burlington area, really all of Vermont, but we're focused here in the Burlington area. So I'm just going to skim through this, and again, in the interest of time, but we've got over 55 civic hackers working on over 15 projects. We've estimated well over 1,500 hours of time contributed so far to these projects. Here's a list of them. You're going to see several of these demoed today. This is one you're going to see called Lakecraft. This is OpenGIS data ported into the game Minecraft for educational purposes. So this is a really exciting project you'll see a demo of. So we're partnering with the City of Burlington Mayor's Office, Big Heavy World, the Vermont Digital Economy Project, and Fletcher Free Library. We're working with those folks on several projects. And in fact, with Fletcher Free Library, we're actually hosting a hackathon coming up on October 26th and 27th. So I hope to see all of you there. We want people of all different skill levels, all different skills. So beginner, expert, whatever your skills are, we want to see you at the hackathon. And we'll find some projects for you to help contribute to. So if you want to stay in touch, we've got a website, codeforbtv.org. Follow us on Twitter, codeforbtv, GitHub, a newsletter, so all sorts of ways to stay in touch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce Ariel. She is a Code for America fellow in Kansas City. So if you're not familiar with Kansas City, is also a gigabit city like us. So they have Google Fiber there, and Ariel's been working on with their local government there. She's going to talk about one of the projects that's come out of this work. So I'm going to pass it over to you. I'm going to see if I can full screen you.
Cool.
Let's see here. Anyone know how to full screen Google Plus?
I think browser full screen might be the best you can do.
Yeah. There we go.
Cool. Can everybody see me? Cool. Cool. I can't see any of you, but good morning here from the West Coast. It was really great to have Bradley and our other brigade captains out in San Francisco. Hi, everybody. Now I can see you. I could see you for a minute. Now I can see the ceiling. Ah, there you are. Yay. Yay. This year I have been working with Kansas City, although I spend a majority of my time here in San Francisco at Code for America headquarters. Although I'm actually an East Coaster, I normally live in New York City. And when Bradley reached out about us presenting, I said, I would love to. Vermont is actually really near and dear to my heart. I got married in Chittenden last year, so I love Vermont. I think it's a great place. And I'm really excited to see you guys become part of the Code for America family. And you know, I think as more gigabit cities happen, how they can fit into the fold and how we can explore civic technology around that. And now that we have presence in Burlington, Austin, Kansas City, and we also unveiled just this week that Chattanooga is going to have fellows next year. So it's a pretty exciting network that's happening as well. So I wanted to share with you guys a little bit of our work. You're actually going to hear about why we did not build an app on fiber, but how fiber played a really key role in getting to where we were with our project. So I'm going to switch to screen share real quick so you guys can see my slides. Guys see slides? Great. So we were asked by Kansas City, we're actually working with Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. They're part of a metro area. Parts of the city are divided by a river and a highway, but there's other parts of the city where literally one side of the road is Missouri and one side is Kansas. So they did the first joint application that Code for America has ever accepted. So it's meant that we've had 2 city halls, 2 mayors, 2 communities, and we've been really working on a regional approach. If you know the story of Google Fiber, which I'll talk a little bit about, the mayors actually worked together to kind of win Google Fiber and then also roll it out across the city. So we were asked to work on 2 things by the mayor's offices, both in helping the city hall itself become more entrepreneurial and then how the city hall can serve small business owners. So we spent all of February in residency. We do a lot of research. We live there. It's really long days. We get to know everyone inside government, in the community, educators, neighborhood leaders, all the tech folks. And Kansas City was really, really welcoming to us, which was really cool. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done on the City Hall side and a little bit what we've done on the community side, and then go into our app. We really try to share all of the things that we work on. When we did all of this research, we realized that there was a lot more than tech that we could affect, and we had about 200 different project ideas that we filtered down into really a strategy that was around kind of internal policy and process in City Hall and culture change, community organizing, which is really the brigade, and then our apps. So in City Hall, we've been working on a couple different things. We also had a mayoral change in the spring in Kansas City, Kansas. But before Mayor Reardon, who was the mayor who helped get fiber, left office, we helped pass some open data and open government legislation. It's a first baby step. Then later this spring, we hosted a Future of Tech event in KCK City Hall, which was really cool. It was kind of like, well, we have a new mayor, we can have a new culture, we can really think about what kind of culture do we want to adopt around technology. And we asked department heads to come in and talk about where they are with tech right now and where they want to go in the future. And it was a really cool way to have an open dialogue that wasn't happening before. We also work a lot on the Kansas City, Missouri side. They have an open data portal. We work a lot with the woman who runs the portal. We're helping them hopefully write a piece of full open data resolution before we are finished in November, but that's a work in progress. We also go back a lot. We do work in San Francisco a majority of the time. It's very important for our process that we have time away from the City Hall and like the burden of some of that, so that we can do work and also be really with our community of techies and designers and all of our mentors. But we go back very often. So we do things like user testing with the mayors, really showing them what we're working on, getting their feedback. We're doing user testing with small business owners. And then we're also kind of like, I joke, is kind of like spreading the gospel. We're always sharing kind of what civic tech is and what we're about, and it's been really helpful in our time there. So let's talk a little bit about the community. Kansas City has a really strong entrepreneurial community, and that's actually kind of historic. Hallmark is there. Dow Chemical started there. H&R Block, like there's a bunch of people that started as small entrepreneurs who are now big household names. But even today, we're seeing that continue. They have about 48,000 small businesses. We think that number is actually larger. This is the best number we can find, but that's actually the top 3% in the nation. So they're doing really well in that regard. But so we found this audience that we could really help serve potentially. There's also first-class institutions that support the small business community there. There's the Kauffman Foundation, which is the philanthropic arm for entrepreneurship. They also have UMKC, which has the #1 entrepreneurial school. Every week at 1 Million Cups, several hundred small business owners gather and share kind of what they're working on, and then the community helps each other. And it's a really cool event, which has actually been really important for us. We presented there in February, again this summer, and we will do so again. We also host a far and large number of events. We started kind of with roundtable discussions in February, bringing people together, whether they're techies or educators or community organizers, and getting them to have conversations. These are people that don't always get in the same room together, but are all really passionate about helping their city be better. We also had a National Day of Civic Hacking, similar to you guys in Burlington. We had about 100 people and 9 really great projects that came out of that. And we also have a brigade that just launched over the summer. They're getting started. We're almost to 70 members now, but I think with the brigade leader training last week, I think it's just more momentum behind that. So it's cool stuff. So I don't have to tell you guys, fiber is a really cool digital advantage. we have this in here to just talk about what fiber is, because a lot of people don't actually know. But saying that it's 100 times faster, it's really cool. We're at kind of the early ages of knowing what to do with that. But in Kansas City, we do know it's creating some unique community assets. So there's the Kansas City Startup Village, which are tech startups who have bought homes so they can use fiber. Fiber is just a fiber to the home service in Kansas City. There isn't a business package on it right now. So we're seeing people of kind of like hacking the system so that they can use this high-speed internet. Also things like Homes for Hackers and the Bradfeld Fiber House, giving hackers rent-free time in these homes to build new ideas. It's pretty exciting stuff. And things like they had their first startup crawl when we were there in February. And it's neat to see a tech community really building in a place that didn't have a tech community before. So when we kind of knew that we got Kansas City and we started doing research, we were like, okay, like what apps do we build on fiber? Like, how do you build civic technology on fiber? And we're connected into US Ignite and Mozilla and met all of those folks and had some interesting brainstorms. But then this other story kind of started to emerge from all of that. So when Google did the sign up process initially, what you had to do was every home had to pre-register and pay $10 as part of that sign up process. So they rolled it out. They thought it'd be great. It turns out that it actually split the city completely down the middle. And if you are familiar with Kansas City demographics, it is split right down the racial segregation line. It's a historic dividing line in the city, and the city, Google, the community groups realized that this was not okay. This is a real piece of civic infrastructure, and we need to give everyone access to it and make sure that even if people don't realize that they need it, we still need them to sign up, because if the homes register and your neighborhood gets greenlit, all of your schools and libraries, your public buildings, also get hooked up, and that's an amazing resource to that community. So they did an amazing kind of rethinking of the outreach effort. It was between fundraising, different kinds of community organizing, just pure marketing tactics, like they bought phone lists of people and called everyone. And so now this is the current fiber status. A good chunk of the city is actually hooked up and turned on, and all of the city is promised. They've also started to spread into more of the suburbs in the region too. So we're seeing it really growing there. So it was nice to see this story change. But the other thing that we really saw, so like there's access and then there's skills. Google did a great study about skills, digital skills, and really uncovered that's like, okay, people get the very basics like checking and sending email, great. But when it comes to stuff that's a little more advanced, such as downloading software or applying for a job, things that you might need to do your homework, advance your economic standing, run your business, etc., there's a skill gap here. And we really saw that people weren't addressing that part quite yet. So there's groups like Connecting for Good that's actually kind of filling in the gap beyond Google Fiber. They're doing cool like mesh network and Wi-Fi pieces so that they're connecting like housing projects that will probably never get Google Fiber. We saw the Digital Inclusion Fund, which is supporting nonprofits that want to work on this issue. And then the Casey Digital Drive, which is also looking at how can we continue to build cool things on fiber and make sure that we're filling skill and access gaps. But none of these groups, like when we were there in February, none of these groups were like fully formed and kind of really up and running. And we've actually been really impressed to see Kansas City realize this problem along with us and start doing something about it as well, and not just let us try to fill that gap. So it's been pretty cool to see. So we realized that there was this real opportunity to, we were tasked to look at economic development, and we really realized that we could think about it through digital education and digital skills training. And this was a complete aha moment in February. Like everyone, when you talk about economic development, by and large, talks about tax incentives, land use, things like that. And those are important things. But when we went to the mayors and said, hey, can we work on an education project? And they said, yes, we were a little blown away. So we've worked with the city and the community this year on a new civic resource that helps lessen that gap and really works on how City Hall can serve small business owners to ensure that they are not digitally left behind. So I want to share, I'm going to go real quickly through just a little bit of research. We also spend a lot of time with actual users. We're not small business owners. We need to actually understand their challenges. So we talked to a lot of people. This is our friend Marcus. He's a roofer in Kansas City. He's really active in his union. You know, it's a face-to-face network, but he often doesn't have time to really go find the other tools that he needs. Or our friend Kelly, she's doing finances in plastic bags. She's using what works. She just doesn't have the capacity to learn those other tools, even though she knows they're there. Also, George, he's with his clients. When he's not with his clients, he's at home in his office working by himself. He doesn't have a strong network to other business owners. So we proposed, what if you could find all the basic web services and quickly learn the basics? What if you could connect and compare to those other business owners? And what if you could teach others the skills that you're best at? And what if you had a friendly guide along the way? So that's our app, BizFriendly. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough. I'm not sure how well the screencast will work through Google Hangouts, so we'll bear with me. So this is BizFriendly. It helps you put the web to work for your business. You're going to find the latest skills and web services all in one spot. So it's organized by skill. So under a skill such as promoting your business online, you're going to see services such as Facebook. And then we're going to click into Facebook. You get some overview information. You get to hear from real business owners. Let's see if this is working. Whoops, nope, not working. Sorry. Oh, interesting. I don't think the video is going to work. Okay. So normally you would click into a lesson. It opens a lesson. It's a side-by-side window. Well, you know what? Hold on one second. Sorry, technology. We're good at it. I'm going to see if I can switch windows and just play the video for you straight. See now? Okay. So you're going to click in to a lesson. You're going to go ahead and log into the web service. We're using Facebook here, but this could be any web service. For my techies in the room, we're actually authenticating with the app so that we can start using the API endpoints. And we're going to take you through the steps. You're going to get detailed instructions here on the right. And then in the left, you're actually doing that action. So we're making a Kansas City fan club. Also, because we're connected to the API, we're actually giving dynamic feedback. So we're looking at those API endpoints and saying, hey, I want this thing. And then we can display that back. So kind of having some fun here with that. Then at the end of the lesson, you actually have done the task. So instead of like watching a video and learning how to do something, you've really done it. And so that it's complete. So then we would follow this up with more lessons about how do you really build your audience? How do you run events? How do you do promotion, et cetera? So this has been a really cool thing to work on and get right. The kind of 2-window thing is definitely a challenge, but we're pretty excited about it. So I'm gonna switch again to another video. So it's really important that content stays fresh. Like the web's always changing, there's always new things, services change. So we built a really easy to use lesson builder. It's as easy as dragging and dropping elements. So we're going to drag in some text. We're going to go ahead and edit that text. And then we can even change the color of the box right there. We've then built a real preview feature so you can see exactly what you're building. You can add as many steps as you need. And then we ask people to submit for review. It really ensures that we keep great content on the site and that we don't just let stuff go up. But we really are expecting it to be a crowdsourced content piece, whether it's other business owners, instructors, kind of these institutions that support small businesses, whether it's from a city level or a community level, and that they're building these pieces. Just switch back again. We've also built the Connect feature, which lets you see what you've been learning, what you've been teaching, and also how you compare to other business owners. So this is biz friendly. These are our local sponsors, but we're at beta. I really encourage you guys to check it out. We just pushed beta live right before the summit. We're doing a local Kansas City launch in just a couple weeks. There's a lot of fine tuning. There's definitely some rough edges around it. But check it out. It only works on the web. It's not mobile friendly because of the 2-window piece. So check it out in a real web browser. Connect to us online and come back. Yeah, and I would also encourage you, if you're kind of interested in this track of thinking around civic tech, you can always get us at Kansas City at codeforamerica.org. There's also a really cool Gigabit Explorers event, which I hope somebody's talking about this weekend. It's coming up the first weekend in November in Kansas City, looking at gigabit apps. But we're hoping to host a civic track as part of that. So we would love to have some people from Vermont come out to KC with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Ariel.
You're welcome.
Can we get a round of applause for the great work they're doing there in Kansas City? Cool. So thanks for joining us. Do you want to stick around, or I should probably easier just to, oops. Actually, let me introduce now Rob Fish from the Vermont Digital Economy Project. Is going to come up and talk about some work they've been doing with nonprofits. See if I can.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Ariel. That was amazing, and I will be in contact because a lot of what I'm doing with the Digital Economy Project is about digital inclusion and teaching digital skills. The Digital Economy Project started last March. It was a grant in response to the devastation from Tropical Storm Irene. One of the realizations that came out of Irene was that a connected community is a resilient community. So the towns where they had Front Porch Forum, the towns where the businesses had websites or were on Yelp, where people could find them even if the roads were blocked trying to reach them. Just the communities that were using digital tools to respond and recover to disasters. So my role in the project is the nonprofit advisor. I was brought on to visit flood-impacted communities and meet with nonprofits and work with them to develop a plan for how to better use digital tools, whether it's social media, their website, online donations, to become more resilient. Like I was working with several organizations, like one of the ones that we built a website for was the Bethel Food Shelf. Bethel was one of the towns that was absolutely devastated by Irene, but they didn't even have a website. They didn't have a donation button on a website or on a Facebook page or anything. They brought in a little bit of money from around the country, but there was no way to tap into the people around the country that were excited and wanted to respond and wanted to help the community recover. So, but the problem I had with this the whole project, honestly, was I was going in and developing great plans, but had no way to implement them. And that's when luckily I got in touch with Bradley here and the National Day of Civic Hacking, and we're able to bring together the tech community to give back to nonprofits in Vermont. Like, Vermont's a special place where nonprofits, they often play a role in just, they are the community. Like, they often take on government functions, and this was an opportunity to give back, and also an opportunity for, with the National Day of Civic Hacking and the Brigade, to have a kind of like low-hanging fruit in many ways. The people who haven't been involved in doing tech before, aren't web developers. Like, I come from a community organizing background. I don't come from a tech background. Like, I've learned using WordPress through this process, and we've been able to help out a lot of nonprofits. One of the first ones we got involved with was the Deerfield Valley Rescue down in Wilmington. We was meeting with them, looked at their website, hadn't been updated in years, didn't have the correct contact info. The website was entirely corrupted. You're not going to call an EMT if you go to their website and it looks like it's been hacked and you don't know if they're actually still in business and your town isn't listed on it. We wanted to help fill that gap. And since the start of, since I guess when was the Civic Hacking? Yeah, since June 1st, we've built about 15 different websites for nonprofits ranging from food shelves to historical societies, emergency managements, animal rescue. And next weekend at Hack the Stacks, we're going to be working on for a conservation group, the White River Partnership, for the Arts Bus, which does arts education for children in the area, and most likely one of the libraries that doesn't have a website at all and lost a lot in the floods. So we'd love for you to come out and help. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. So we're going to have... So I want to let folks know we will have some time for some Q&A at the end here. So we're just going to keep going through some demos, though. So next up, we'll take a look at an app called the Fish Stocking Schedule. So this is interesting project you might have heard about.
So our project was the Vermont Fish Stocking Schedule. We found some data on the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department's website. They actually have a great data set that is scheduled stocking and completed stocking going back to 2009. We were most concerned with scheduled stocking for the year. This was earlier in the summer. Matt's a big fisher, and so we wanted to find a way to use this data in a more interesting way than the HTML table that was on the website. So the goal, what's that? Yeah, sure. I think you can just click right here. That's right, we have a link. So on the app, there's a link to the actual data set from Vermont Fish and Wildlife. So you can kind of see comparing the original data and how useful it is to the general public in this format as compared to our app, where we were able to visualize it, and it allows the user to kind of slice and dice to illustrate what data is important to them. So we have the different species of fish broken out into categories, so you can choose all fish species or a species that you're particularly fond of fishing. And then you can also visualize, and we have some kind of fun different colorways and base maps. But if you choose a particular town, like a darker color means more of that species was stocked in that town. So you can zoom directly to the town that you're in, and when you select a town, it shows you which species and the length and the number stocked. So that's basically it for this app. The thing that's really exciting to us about this is that it can really be used for any data set. So what we want to do is to expand this app to make it a tool that the public can use for open data sets. So we hear a lot about open data now, towns creating open data portals. Burlington has a Socrata install with open data. But for the general public that aren't web developers, there may be limited utility for that if they don't know how to visualize that data or use it to their benefit. So we want to expand this to allow the public to upload their own CSVs of data and map it to town names and be able to have a visually pleasing tool that they can use to sell something to a customer or use in a presentation, and really take advantage of the open data.
Thanks, guys. So next up, we've got a Green Up Vermont app. Take a look at.
Just get set up here. My name is Josh Dickerson. This is Anders Moline, and we've been working on. What's that? Okay. Like here? All right. And we've been working on an app for Green Up Vermont. For those of you that don't know, Green Up Vermont Day is a day every spring when Vermonters organize to clean up garbage and litter and what have you in their local communities. Until now, the Green Up organization's really been focused around distributing garbage bags and maps of drop-off locations. And what they've been unable to do is to track the progress of the cleanup operations, or to have an open channel of communications for the participants as they're cleaning up. So we decided to solve these problems by coming up with some analytical data as well as a nice iOS app that I'm about to show you. So, you see that okay? All right. All right. So this is a home screen. We have an iOS, an Android, and a web app version of this. So the iOS version, as you can see here, shows your home screen where you get simple instructions on how to use the app. Basically, you just click on the Start Cleaning button, and what the app does is it starts tracking your location as well as the amount of time that you spend at that location. All the data is tracked anonymously, so there's no identifying, concern of spyware or something like that. But once you start tracking your location, the location shows up as a heat map of all the places that you've been while you've been cleaning up. All the participants can see this heat map, so it gives you valuable information like what needs to be done and what hasn't been done yet. So back on the map view here, another thing that we can do is we can lay down markers. So a marker represents an individual point of interest. So if, for instance, I'm cleaning up in Heinsberg and I come across a large pile of garbage that's maybe too heavy for me to clean up, then I can ask for assistance with somebody that has a pickup truck. Now, everybody that's using the app can actually see these markers, and if they click on the markers, they can be taken to a comments page. So here we have a comments stream, so everybody that's using the app, including the organizers, can lay down markers and comments. If you click on one of the markers identified in green here by and with the icon, you're taken to the location. So we're really hoping that this helps make the whole process a lot more efficient. Together with the iOS app, we've also made an administrative dashboard, so the organizers of Green Up Vermont can see the progress as it's going on. They get the heat map data as well as the markers. They can also view and administer the comment stream, so if they find inappropriate comments, they can delete those. From this view, they can also add administrative markers, so markers to show where pickup points are, or if there's a problem, some sort of hazard, stay away from this, and they can leave messages. So those are indicated by their own unique marker. And to top it off, what we've done is we've added some analytical data. So the top row, what you're looking at here is the usage data by device and the amount of time used by device. And then the bottom row is kind of in aggregate, so the total time worked and the total area cleaned. So we really hope that this is going to allow people to become more efficient in greening up this state that we love. So that's about it. Thank you very much.
Great work, guys. Okay, so next we're going to talk about a project called School Juice, and I'll let them explain if they're here. Are they here? Or maybe we're not going to talk about School Juice. So I can talk a little bit about it. So School Juice is a project to, so you're all familiar with the smart meters that we have now in Burlington. So the idea is there's definitely a lot of privacy concerns with that data and opening up that data. So one thing that this School Juice team is looking at is providing data of smart meters of public buildings, but specifically school buildings. And so it could be a way to visualize this data, have an API for this data, and it could be an interesting way for kids to learn about energy usage of the buildings or potentially compete with other schools. So So that's just a little bit about that project. So next we'll take a look at Lakecraft. So this is I mentioned this briefly before, but we'll get to see a demo of this now. So.
I'll do an intro, but I don't know anything about the technical aspects. You don't want to hear about?
So you want to stand over there when you talk, just so people over there can see you. You better just grab one of those mics.
Hi, so I'm Nina. I'm an educator at the Echo Lake Aquarium and Science Center. Back in May, Echo had a freshwater summit to talk about how to, it brought civic leaders, scientists, educators together at Echo to talk about how to improve stewardship of the Lake Champlain Basin, so Lake Champlain and the area around it. And a really neat comment that came out of that summit was that there was a man from the Agency of Natural Resources, and he was presenting on what he had taken away from the two-day summit. And his vision, his one-sentence vision was that in the future, he would like his child, instead of playing Minecraft, to be playing Lakecraft. So Minecraft was nothing I had heard of before, I think, that day. But it's a really neat sandbox game. I'm guessing most of you have heard about it before June, like I did. So I came to the hackathon in June with the idea that to take Minecraft and import the Lake Champlain Basin as a way to encourage children and adults to explore the Lake Champlain Basin, so place-based education in this really open-ended platform. And I think it has a lot of interesting and neat potentials. And we used it in camps at Echo to teach children about the Lake Champlain Basin. But it's also a really open-ended program where adults and kids can go in and build their communities inside. And we can really start to crowdsource people's ideas of what their communities look like and what they should be aspirationally. So this is Nick. I'm going to hand it off to Nick, and he can talk to you about the technical aspects of the project.
Well, the technical aspects turned out to be mostly about doing GIS data processing and getting that data from the USGS, bringing it into GIS tools and processing it and figuring out exactly what Minecraft needed. One of the limitations that Minecraft presents is that the world is only 256 meters high, and our world is not like that. So there's been a lot of scaling and skewing to get things fit into place. But hopefully on the screen we can see Camel's Hump. Is that correct? Yes? Okay, good. And that's, you know, we've brought in the entire Lake Champlain Basin. I believe we've got a new map here, which is a pretty good indicator. You can see Lake Champlain in the middle, and then you can see all of the mountains and forests and so on and so forth. The initial project was just to get the basin modeled in a physical sense with just the hills and valleys and maybe the lake. We'd like to add the bathymetry to the bottom of the lake, which is currently not very realistic, but we'll get there. And we have lots of other plans for making it more realistic in terms of bringing in other open data, such as hydrography and land use data. I've just been working on bringing in roads, and I wished I could show it to you, but I can't really. So anyway, we've been playing with lots of different ways to bring in data, and sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it requires some actual coding instead of GIS processing. And I don't know, I guess that's about it. We are going to open the server up real soon so other people can play with it. We don't have it quite ready yet, but maybe in the next few days we can start to bring in some people that we think want to play around in the virtual environment of the Lake Champlain Basin. Okay.
Thanks. So everybody's going to go home and play Lakecraft, right? Awesome. Thanks. Sorry, just give me 1 second here. Everybody see the screen okay? Civic Cloud, it should say up there. Nope, it doesn't? Okay. We're good? Awesome. So I'm just going to talk really briefly about one last project here, and then we'll open up the floor to questions. So you've heard all these great apps that people are working on, and so this other project we're working on called the Civic Cloud is potentially a place to host a lot of these great apps that are being built here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the Civic Cloud is and the progress we're making on this project. So first I want to talk about three seemingly different topics. So you heard from Rob Fish earlier talking about resiliency and how communities that have digitally connected nonprofits are more resilient. And we heard that even something as simple as a website can make these communities more resilient. And we heard about how these communities lost all sorts of data during Tropical Storm Irene. You've also heard over the last couple of days, yesterday in particular, about how Burlington now has a gigabit network, and how we have plans to use the gigabit network for community economic development, and how we're a US Ignite partner now. So we're now actually a test bed for development of gigabit apps. And a lot of these gigabit apps could be civic apps, like the ones you've seen today. They could be modified to leverage gigabit, or new apps that could use gigabit. One of the challenges with gigabit, though, is that these gigabit networks are islands of super fast connectivity. Sure, we can connect gigabit apps here locally, but once you go outside the network, it becomes a lot slower. Back in March, I think it was, we published this report called Burlington's Gigabit Opportunity. So if anybody's curious to see some of the possibilities we have with this network, it's btvgig.org. Also, you heard yesterday about the announcement of the BTV Ignite. So I believe it's btvignite.com. So you check that out as well. So this is Glenn Reichart from US Ignite. This is us talking with him about this Civic Cloud project and some of the other civic apps that we're working on. And he's really interested in this idea. So the third thing I'm going to talk about is cloud computing. So who here uses cloud computing of some form or another? Probably everybody, right? You're either using some software application that's hosted in the cloud, or if you're a software developer, you're deploying your apps to the cloud. So a lot of reasons for that. It's cheaper, it's more efficient use of resources, and likely we're going to see gigabit apps continue to also want to deploy in the cloud. So what we're doing with the Civic Cloud is we're proposing to actually put a server rack within Burlington's gigabit network. We want to make cloud computing resources available for non-commercial internet applications with a focus on public, educational, and government access. So this will be an infrastructure on which to deploy apps, next generation gigabit apps. So those of you who are familiar with cloud computing, you'll be aware that cloud is kind of this fuzzy word, but there are some specific service models when we talk about cloud. There's infrastructure as a service, there's platform as a service, which is usually built on top of infrastructure as a service that makes it easier for developers to deploy applications. Then you've got software as a service. Most non-web developers, most non-developers are gonna, when they think of the cloud, they're thinking of the software as a service layer. So we're working on this in 3 phases, the Civic Cloud project. We have a pilot phase that we're working on now. We're trying to bootstrap this. We've got a bunch of equipment already secured to make this possible. Phase 2, we want to get some more funding to implement this, actually take it to the next level, build out a true infrastructure as a service layer, and then eventually sustain this, build out a way to how to sustain it and define governance of this resource. So you might be asking yourself, well, why wouldn't we just use an existing commercial cloud service provider? There's a bunch of reasons for that. One is you're going to get faster speeds and lower latency for gigabit apps hosted within the gigabit network. It could provide access to people that couldn't otherwise afford it. So students could host apps in this cloud, for example. It could provide us local control over the entire stack. There are free speech and privacy implications to using commercial service providers. For example, fair use. You might have fair use content that gets taken down by a commercial service provider, but it'd probably be perfectly legitimate content. And we're also looking at using existing open source software like OpenStack to mitigate lock-in so that it becomes easier if you want to move between clouds. So these are the members of the Civic Cloud Collaborative. Civic Cloud Collaborative is the group that's helping to move this Civic Cloud forward. So, like I said before here, so I was trying to stay in touch with the work we're doing for Code for BTV. So open up the floor to questions at this point. Just one last thing before we do that though, I want to remind everybody, please put this on your calendar for next weekend, Hack the Stacks at Fletcher Free Library. So if we want to get all the teams up here, maybe we can have some Q&A if folks have any questions for any of the projects you saw or demos you saw today. Or we could maybe stand up there, might be easier. Yeah, we probably don't need the mic. You can, it's small enough room. Maybe stand in the front here, it'd be easier.
That's correct.
One quick question too, is there any kind of photos baked into that? Or are you planning for photos where you can be like, I can't move that curve. You can see the problem?
No, but that's a good idea.
And one question for Rob, if people are interested in getting involved in helping with these projects, what level of programming do they need help?
You could be a beginner. As long as you've at least touched the computer, we'll have something that you can help out with. Like, a lot of it's just transferring, like copying from one page to another, cutting and pasting. Like, we need all the help we can get from all different skill levels.
Graphic designers, anybody with any sort of artistic or writing abilities. When coders are spending a lot of time coding, it's nice to have somebody there that can do a lot of the other work that we're not necessarily trained for, I suppose.
How do you get involved when you show up?
Yeah, just show up at a hackathon. We've got the Hack the Stacks next week. We've got monthly hackathons. So we'll have a schedule of that available. We usually announce it at least a month ahead of time. So yeah, you can do that, or you can, if that schedule doesn't work for you, you can contact one of the team members from one of the teams and see. A lot of these teams are working offline, not in the hackathons. I know the Lakecraft team, for example, has done a ton of work outside the hackathon. So you can contact a particular team member and one of the teams and introduce yourself and say you're interested in helping out with it. So.
Another thing our project does, in addition to the WordPress development, is social media surgeries that we're working with folks. The idea is we bring social media professionals or experts together with a group of nonprofits in a 2-hour session where they can do offer one-on-one help. So kind of surgeons, patients, silly, dorky, it's fun, and people seem to get a lot out of it. And our next one is actually, unfortunately, very early Tuesday morning in Waterbury, if anyone's interested in being a surgeon, and we'll have one in St. Albans in December.
A lot of us are trying to make our applications very generalizable too. So, I mean, for instance, the GreenUp application, it could have lots of different uses, whether we're talking about political campaigns or anything door to door where you want to know which streets were covered. And we've made it in a way that you really just have to change some graphics. So part of Code for America is taking these projects and kind of putting them in a central location so that people in these civic hacking brigades in other cities can actually use the code without having to reinvent the wheel every time. So.
Raji, I noticed on the sign up for Hack the Stacks, there are so many tickets that you can have from signing up. If you get to the limit, what happens? People can't get in; they get turned away.
So we right now we've set the limit to 50 people for this particular next weekend. But if we hit that limit, which I'm really happy to, then we're going to look at see if we can open up more space. I think we could probably fit more people, so we definitely don't want to turn people away. So if we do hit that limit, we'll try to figure out how to make that work. So we're a whole upstairs of the library. So we're going to be, whole second floor. We'll be in 3 different rooms up there. Yeah, Pickering, I think, Fletcher room, and then there's a smaller conference room that will be in as well.
Anything to look out for right now? Is there any big projects using it? Any big pushes going on so that they can take advantage of the gigabit connections?
So no, not at the moment. I mean, well, there are. These projects could potentially leverage gigabit, but there's nothing that I'm aware of that's. I mean, well, there's stuff that's in the works potentially, and that's in the concept phases. But we really want to see people really focus on gigabit apps. And actually, Ariel had mentioned the Gigabit Explorer thing in Kansas City. So it'd be great to see some folks from Vermont go to that and really learn about gigabits. And the thing with gigabit is it's such a new technology that it really is an exploration phase here where we need to learn how to take advantage of that, because there are so many constraints that we're used to as developers that go away with gigabit that it's really hard to retrain ourselves to think in terms of not having those constraints in place. So that's what this Gigabit Explorer event, for example, is about, is an opportunity to let go of those constraints and rethink how we can build apps when we have gigabit networks. So really like to see that happening here in Burlington too, since we have that opportunity now. So. All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks, Ariel.